Hi folks, welcome back to the Model 3 Man channel, and some of you have been asking, where is Model 3 Man? Should make a t-shirt. Where is Model 3 Man? So the short answer is what some of you already know, as I did mention it in the last upload, is that I took the decision to close the physical classroom that I've been running for 20 years. Advanced Digital Training School had a physical classroom and premises. Thanks to COVID, and thanks to reflecting and thinking about the future and the direction we should be going, I've decided to convert it completely to an online school. Offers courses online as well as individual Zoom sessions with the instructor, me. And I've been hard at work videoing myself, taking each course that I've run and converting it to a digital video equivalent. So if you just want to use the pictures as they are, keep your camera in JPEG, set it to the highest quality, and you'll get the best results. But if you want to edit your pictures, you want to print them, you want to make photo prints, you want to make photo books, you want to adjust the picture in different ways, and of course that's part of the reason you're doing this course, is to learn how to adjust photographs. There really is only one choice. Choose RAW. Now that's not to say you cannot edit JPEG photographs. You can. You can improve them. You can make a lot of difference to them. But if you've got the chance to work on a new photograph that you've just taken, it will be very sad to know that you'd set it to JPEG when you could have set the camera to RAW. Here's the benefit. Once I've done it, my school and the courses I run can reach a lot more people. It can reach any of you guys that are friends of the channel. It can reach people across the world. That's good. Second thing, I don't have to be going into the classroom and teaching one person or two people or three people at a time. I can spend that time developing this Model 3 Man channel. Be patient with me, and I promise you, when I get back, you'll get sick of me. I'll be uploading so frequently. Today, episode number 1 of our new Journey to Full Self-Driving. I got that name from the commenter you see below. He said, how about Journey to FSD? I liked it. I thought it was appropriate. After all, everything we do in our cars is a journey. Journeying to full self-driving, it's still an objective. We have not reached it yet. I know that Elon's driving a car that has a version of FSD that's almost at level 5, but that's not us. So we're on that journey. Episode 1, Journey to Full Self-Driving. There's the outline, lots of little topics. Here's what I'm going to do today. The first episode is about measuring the baseline of current performance, and I happen to be on version 2020.36, I think it is, 2020.36. Measuring what full self-driving is capable of doing right now on freeways, on local roads, at traffic intersections, at traffic signs, measuring where we stand right now. Let's run through what FSD is capable of right now, and that is our baseline measurement. So, first of all, let's look at FSD on freeways. Number 1, lane keeping. I've got no complaints here. Full self-driving, even autopilot or enhanced autopilot, which I had, whether you have any of those three, lane keeping is very, very good. It accurately determines the midpoint between the lane markings and sticks to it, even on curves, even on pretty sharp corners. I've never had an experience of shooting over the edge of the lane. It's always kept within it. So lane keeping, pretty much as close to perfect and as close to what we'll get, and that's the first benchmark. Lane keeping ability is very, very good. There's no problem with that at all. It's always in the middle between the two lines. Now there is a bit of a tricky section just coming up onto the bridge, because the left yellow lane marker suddenly disappears and it gets awfully close to the middle concrete median. Okay, the yellow marker disappears here, Oh, that is... It's just uncomfortably close, and it shouldn't do that. I've always thought that it should pay more attention to the lane marker on the right, which is an obvious and very clear target, and not on the vagueness of a median. But we're measuring baseline, that's a measure of the baseline. Lane changes. So what I'm talking about here are two different phenomena. One, I decide to change the lane. I tap on the indicator, down or up. The car obeys my instruction and changes lanes when it's safe to do so. So when I initiate the lane change, it looks back, it looks forward, it looks all around. It still takes 5 flashes of the indicator before it moves. I would like that to be almost immediate, if the car, after all, has assessed that there's no danger. When I hit the indicator, I mean to go. So I think we can look forward to some changes in that area later on. The second type of lane change happens when we're on Navigate on Autopilot, and that's something you only have if you're on Enhanced Autopilot or Full Self-Driving. Navigate on allows the car to make its own decision as to when to change lanes. So if I'm coming up to the exit, Lynn Valley exit, which is what I use to get home, the car will get me into the right-hand lane long before I get there, and sometimes in my book it's way too early, 2-3 kilometers ahead. It's being cautious, and that's fine. But how does it take those exits? In my book, at the moment, very well. Here comes the indicator, speed's dropping, it's turning off. Very smooth, very nice. So it takes this very strong curve, and then it's going to put the indicator on once again, because we have to turn right to go up Lynn Valley. On the other hand, freeway entry, when you're coming off the freeway on-ramp and you're joining the freeway, I'm not totally comfortable with that. It has a tendency to travel all the way in the inbound lane, and only when the dotted lines physically merge with the freeway does it turn in. I would just join the freeway as soon as I can if no cars were in the lane. Red Dragon tends to go all the way to the end of the merge. We're joining Route 1, heading east. Let's get the speed up a little bit. There we go. So I'm interested to see how effectively it merges, because there's a lot of traffic in both lanes. Giving it headroom, I've put it onto 100. We're going to see just what it does. It's going pretty fast. And, oh, there we go. Slowing down, and dropping back. Well, that was good. That's good. I'd look to see an improvement on that particular behavior. What about cruise control? Well, Traffic Aware Cruise Control, TACC, is part of the suite of functions that are part of Full Self-Driving. So it is in general a very, very competent, very accomplished feature. Traffic Aware Cruise Control takes note of cars ahead, dangers ahead, items that are going to cause problems. The car slows down appropriately. I've also noticed that it slows down appropriately when we come to sharp corners or dangerous stretches of the road. I noticed that when the markings on the road had not yet been painted, and they just had those little plastic, what do you call them, plastic indicators where the lane should go, the car slowed down. It was a good 10 to 15 kilometers slower in that stretch, in that section. So I have no arguments with the Traffic Aware Cruise Control, and you can adjust how close or how far you follow just by pushing the right wheel on your steering wheel to the right or to the left. I think that possibly one of the things is that I find that when it does slow down for something ahead, it's often a little bit too abrupt, it's too aggressive. I would, as a normal human driver, lift my foot off the accelerator progressively to slow it gently, not to alarm everyone in the car, but often Red Dragon will go quite fast and then brake hard. It'll stop in time, but it's aggressive. I would look forward to improvements in that algorithm, or the ability for us to choose how aggressive or how smooth slowing down should become in the future. benchmarks on the local roads. Now, let's preface that by saying we are not meant to be using autopilot yet on local roads, and yet it does work. And if we have a dual lane local road, I frequently put autopilot on. It's very good at detecting traffic lights ahead, stop signs ahead, and the very fact that it's doing that means that, yeah, we should be testing it on local roads. We should be, but we should be very alert for when things could go wrong. So here's what I've discovered. On local roads, stop signs. It's very, very good. It actually draws from the database, the map data that it has downloaded previously, to know where stop signs exist. In the future, Elon has assured us that the cameras will play a much more prominent role in picking up any kind of road signage and responding to that. In other words, so if there's a speed limit change down to 30k for some reason, the car will see the sign, slow it down, and override the mapping database that says you could go at 60 or 70. That's not quite with us yet, but it certainly is able to see road signs around it. But for a stop sign, it'll stop even if the stop sign is out of view, and it does detect a stop sign even before it can see it. How about detecting pedestrians? Very good at that. Yesterday, a guy on a skateboard jumped in front of me, no warning, but the car slowed down even perhaps a little too much. It's pretty aggressive in slowing right down if it thinks there's a human in the road. Oh, a little guy taking a taking a chance, and the car saw him. Skateboarders everywhere during the summer. Basically, if it sees that the human is walking at a fixed pace across the road, it should be able to determine the speed that that person is walking at, the point in time which he would reach the sidewalk, and adjust the car speed to allow for a little bit of a gap, but not to slow right down and stay down until he's crossed the street. That way we'll have following cars smacking into you from behind. What about traffic lights? It's very good. It detects the lights, whether they're green or amber or red. It is good at responding quickly, but it's very careful about not overreacting. So here's an example. I'm heading toward the lights. I've tapped on the gear stalk to allow it to go through. I've given it permission to go through, because you have to do that even if it's green at this point. What happens? The lights change to amber. Now, the car could slam on brakes, bring me to a halt, and obey the law. But the car has a certain algorithm programmed in that determines, is it safe to brake and stop on these amber lights? Or has it just turned amber, and am I very close to the intersection, in which case it sails right through? Oh, turned amber, but it didn't stop because it knew that would have been dangerous. If a car was behind me, that would not have been safe. It's actually very efficient, very effective at that. So I have no issue there. The behavior is simple. Comes to a red light, it stops. Tap the gear stalk to go through, it will not. Why? Well, it's red. The car's not stupid. The minute it turns green, I need to tap the gear stalk, or I could just lightly press the accelerator pedal and the car picks up and goes through. Does it do that for every light? Yes, if there are no cars ahead of you. If you're the first and only car in sight. Every time it comes to a traffic control intersection, it says stopping in 100 meters, stopping in 75, stopping in 50. If at any time in that portion of the trip you tap the gear stalk, it will go through, it will not stop. A stop sign ahead, I'm going to tap it so that it goes right through, and it does. The car ahead's gone quite far. I'm wondering whether it's still close enough to pull me through. Yeah, it does. We went right through. Another one that's flashing green. That's very nice. Now that's interesting, because the car ahead of us is way, way ahead. And yet, it allowed me to go through without tapping the control. So I'm not quite sure how that... Now it says stopping for traffic control in 100 meters from now. Your recourse is to keep tapping the gear shaft if you want to keep going through the green lights. But there's an exception. If there's a car ahead of you and you're following this guy, every time the lights are green, your car, as it were, follows in the wake of the car ahead. It's like tailgating. It just moves in behind and it follows him. And then it does not try and stop you on green. So that's the one exception. What am I looking to for improvements? Well, obviously, not to have to tap the gear stalk, not to have to press the accelerator. If it's green, just go. If I see anything happening, any dangerous impediment, I'm going to tramp on the brakes myself. But the car should assume that a traffic intersection with green lights means keep on going and don't bother Peter, who's having to tap the stalk all the time. And I do realize that Tesla must err on the side of caution. Otherwise, public opinion would come out against him, and the full self-driving program would be retarded by many years, perhaps. So he has to play it safe until all of the kinks have been ironed out. And that's what we're doing as we drive around. As I'm driving in full self-driving, that data is helping Tesla to determine what still needs refinement, to check how I respond and behave compared to what the car is already doing. And that leads to those refinements that we're so looking forward to. Oh, here's another one. Traffic circles. Could be called roundabout, traffic roundabout. I don't know what they called it in your country. Here it's a traffic circle. It is disastrous. It is terrible. Look, no one ever said that it would do a good job, but I had to test it. It's awful. It gets up to the traffic circle. It says stopping for traffic intersection ahead. That's good. Then I tap the gear stalk. The instant it starts to move into the circle, the big red warning steering wheel comes on, as you can see here. But here we go. So it's going to stop for us, as it does, and I'm going to tap it to make it go. It's not going to do it. It is not confident. Then again, we really didn't think it would, but it's interesting to establish a baseline, and I can promise you that if it can handle this, I'm going to be really, really impressed, because traffic circles are never easy. There's always something that happens, whether it's pedestrians crossing or somebody jumping into the circle that should not. So when it can competently handle a traffic roundabout, it's going to be a major milestone in full self-driving. The protocols involved in getting into a traffic circle, namely, if anyone's in it, you wait. If anyone's in it ahead of you, you can join. If there's no one, you can go straight in. Those are protocols. We follow those. We follow them instinctively. You wouldn't think so by looking at some of the drivers in North Vancouver, but most of us who know what we're doing know those protocols. The car, those protocols have got to be built into its responses. So at the moment, there is no traffic circle behavior. There is no full self-driving level of capability. We'll have to see how that one goes. And I'm excited to see how they do that. Local roads, turning and navigating. Doesn't exist. Not there. If you're thinking that because on your map, on the touch screen, you have charted your course, and if coming to the traffic lights you are required to turn left to keep on the road, you can tap the gear stalk, the car will begin moving through. It won't go left. It'll just keep on going straight through the intersection. And then it'll have to readjust the map to make up for that. Why? Well, navigation isn't built into local driving, full self-driving capability. Not at this point. Of course it's coming, but it's not here yet. And it says stopping for traffic control in 75 meters, 50 meters, 25 meters, and there it is. It's actually stopped. And it tells me autopilot unable to proceed. So I'm just going to go and do it myself. So everything has still to be developed, and I'm excited to watch as they roll that out and go and test it. Another local driving feature, accelerating from a standstill. So we come to the traffic lights, we stop behind the line. The minute it goes green, I tap the stalk. How fast or slow will the car accelerate through that intersection and get up to the normal speed allowed on that road? It used to be very slow. It used to be frustratingly slow. But now, it's pretty brisk. It's enough to have Janine look up if she's sitting reading her phone and checking her text messages while she's in the passenger seat, of course. It's pretty brisk. Look, I personally don't mind that. But I would like it if in the menu settings, there was a slider and you could go from slow standstill start, medium, aggressive, and we can pick our own method of moving from a complete standstill up to road speed. Okay, let's look at a few that are neither freeway nor local specific, some general full self-driving considerations, we'll call it. Number one, bad weather. See, when it rains, and it's raining pretty hard, here's what the car does. It jumps out of the navigate on autopilot setting and just goes back to regular auto steer. So in other words, our navigation, the ability for the car to choose the exit lane and then to take the off-ramp, disappears. So at this point in time, bad weather can often even completely kill autopilot. So there are lots of potential improvements that we will be looking toward in that whole area of bad weather driving. Another general consideration, construction zones. Please do not for a minute believe that your car will deftly and adroitly navigate its way through a construction zone just because there are some red cones. Trust me, the other day I haven't got a video of this, but we had cones just before the intersection. But then, across the intersection, the cones started up again a good 10 feet to the left of where we had been driving. Well, I left the car on autopilot, and the minute it got to the middle of the intersection, it started shrieking at me, "Take control, take control." It didn't detect the presence of the cones and know that it would have to turn left to be able to enter into the slight diversion that they had for us. So, construction zones, they remain a real hazard. Yes, the car is able to detect the cones, even cones that have fallen over. It does a good job of that. But navigating through them, and if the road surface is terrible, it's just not up to that yet. So there's another behavior that has vast space for improvement, and we will look for those improvements. Then another general consideration, visualizations. Well, I like the visualizations. They're, from your eyes, they're on the left of the screen, this little panel over here that has the speed limit and all the rest of it. I like them. They're pretty accurate. They're sometimes humorous. They don't always depict exactly the reality out there, but most of the time they're pretty close. The visualizations have nothing to do with driver safety. You're not going to be sitting looking down at your screen at what the visualization is and thinking, how should I respond to this? The car is merely showing you those visualizations of the external reality to bring a level of comfort to you, to help you to know that the car is seeing these things and hopefully taking the right action. They are simply a reflection of what the car is seeing out there in the world about it, showing you that it knows what it's detecting. That's all. It's always in the middle, between the two lines, between the lane markers. So no issue with that. Oh, sudden hard brake. Why? That's still an issue. Sudden hard braking. There was a shadow under that bridge. Could it be that? I don't know. Could it be that the cars in the right-hand lane were going very much slower than we were, and the car was sensing the possibility of trouble? That's possible. But hard braking like that with a car behind you is not a safe thing. So you have to keep a watch for that. So it's after this corner. Oh, and it braked again. That is not good. It is definitely sensing the cars in the right lane. And finally, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge to get into autopilot mode, by which I mean auto steer and traffic-aware cruise control. Why would it not go into autopilot? Well, if the road is unmarked, if there are no lane markings, if the road is of indeterminate width that seems to change a lot, there's no certainty that your car can look at and decide that autopilot is possible here. So I've gone through a lot of local roads, and it's typically local roads, not freeways, where there is no marking to be seen. I just cannot get into autopilot until I get onto a stretch of road where there is at least some level of marking. These are things that full self-driving will have to deal with, because municipalities are not going to find the money to put lines on every little back road in their communities. Also, For some of them, they deliberately don't do that because the road is very narrow. You couldn't put a center line which would give people the impression that they can go either side of it, only there isn't enough space, especially when cars park. And we had lots of those around North Vancouver. So they're not going to paint a line ever. Full self-driving will just have to learn to cater to that and cope with it. So that's it, folks. That's the baseline. These are measurements, individual baseline measurements of what full self-driving does now. As it grows, as it develops, as the software is downloaded, I'm going to take each of these improvements and go and test it in detail. So thank you again for supporting the channel, and please don't think I'm gone. I'm not gone, and I've got to get the school conversion done, and be patient. I'm not going anywhere, and soon I'll have double the amount of time I had for this channel, and I'll make it up to you. In the meantime, those who've donated to the channel through my PayPal link, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. My goal right now is to get equipment that will help my cameras to be properly mounted in the car without me having to drag Janine along every time I want to film. I'm looking to get some good mounting suction caps and mounting brackets that will allow me to have multiple cameras in the car and give you a better impression of how things work. So as you drive around, listen, don't trust Autopilot to keep you safe. Keep your eyes open and your wits about you. Keep your car safe, keep your family safe, keep yourself safe. And I'll see you again on the next episode, and thanks again for your support. Cheers for now.